So, hello and welcome to Eelin'in's Epic Morning Show. Today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Phrygians that I already mentioned in the first video where I introduced Eskişehir.
So Eskişehir was originally founded by the Phrygians.
And now I wanted to a little bit more explore the area which is a bit south from Eskişehir and the Phrygian Valley. So the Phrygian Valley is basically a natural area south of Eskişehir where there's a lot of rock carvings, rock facades, and even some caves carved out from the soft volcanic rock that's prevalent in that area. And it's really cool. There's a lot of monuments and places that I have seen in the world which are sort of competitive to this, and still this is not used in tourism as much as it could be, in my opinion. There's recently been some tourism projects where they're developing like a hiking route, and some information is being spread. A lot of antiquities researchers have been using these areas for their research, but it's not really commonly known, let's say. And I think that the infrastructure of that area and protection of these sites would be greatly helped by sort of development in tourism in that area. And I think that this is sort of my main idea of this video. I want to share this area with you so that maybe you get some interest to actually go and see it and discover it for yourself. I was thoroughly impressed. I'm really still impressed, and I will want to go and visit and discover more of this area. So I would like to share with you the two first trips I made to this area and the sites I visited. There are probably tens of, not hundreds of sites you could visit in this area, and I have only scratched the surface so far. I have some points that I want to research further on, so hopefully later on we will have some more videos about what you can discover in the Phrygian Valley. Phrygian Valley is not only Phrygian, like it didn't freeze in time. People have been living in this area for even thousands of years. I will show you a bit of pictures that I've taken on these trips to these areas, and I will a little bit narrate what we're seeing in the pictures and maybe spark your interest towards the area, and maybe you will book your next trip here and come and visit and see the Phrygian Valley. I think it's definitely worth the visit and totally underexplored, and I'm just amazed. Here you go, the Phrygian Valley.
So basically the first visit I did was to Kümbet, and Kümbet is a small village on top of which there's this rock which is shaped a bit like a castle, and actually probably on this rock there was a castle at some point. Now you can't see any structure really except these carvings into the rock, like this one which basically looked a bit like a chimney. In fact, there's a little bit of a hole throughout this area, this rock, which sort of made it even more look like a chimney. And the view from this space was really spectacular. This was my first visit, and I really noticed from this rock you could see several of these rocks in the distance actually were hosts to other locations and places to visit. Next to the castle in Kümbesi, you have Himmet Baba Türbesi, which is basically a tomb which is placed in a graveyard, obviously, and the tomb is built with different types of rocks, probably dating back to the old castle and to these other places that were built here way before the Islamic religion took part of it. And actually, it's quite interesting when you look closely at the carvings. You can see like really intricate things that have been carved out, much like in many antiquities places and religions. I thought this was the most impressive one. It looks a bit like a wheel or a sun, and this is prominent religious sort of symbolism in many different cultures, and I thought it's really impressive also to see it here in the tomb. The following pictures are from my second trip to the Friggbades or the Phrygian Valley, and they're from Midas City. Midas City is quite a special place because it's maybe the most important sort of site within this region, and it has some really impressive stone carvings. I will start you off with the first picture, which is basically of the biggest stone carving in this area, which is the Midas Wall. It's something like almost 15 meters tall, and you sort of drive up to this top of the hill, and then you even walk for a bit, and then you get to this huge stone carving with this carved labyrinth into this wall. It's really impressive. And right next to it, you can find this cave sort of structure, which is dating a little bit later, so the first stone wall seems to be a lot older, but these caves are maybe a bit from the Greek period afterwards, and they were used as tombs and sometimes storage, and they're quite impressive when you look here. You can see inside a tomb. Basically, you can see behind there's sort of an altar structure like this, and under it there would be a tomb where you would place the dead person, and then they could visit, like in a graveyard basically. A lot of these places have been sort of scratched. People have been wanting to put their own names and their sort of mark on these places, which is a bit of a shame, but at the same time it almost becomes historical fact already. You can see 1976 carved into that one wall over there. So after this, we took a bit of a walk around this because it's a huge site, and you can see the road sort of leading up to the village where this place is, and it's really impressive sort of views, and it's on the top of a hill, so quite nice. Here you can see the water collection structure. So it started with them how they collect the water from on top of this hill, and then it runs down into these sort of wells where then people would go and collect. This was basically the city structure. So here you can see a well and the stairs going down to the well, so you could go and take out the water. Now it looks mostly like a cave, but really impressive sort of structures to have been carved out of rock, and definitely worth a visit when you go there. This is the view from the end of the trek, basically the highest point of the site, and you can see here the smaller carved facade, and both of these facades were made by the Phrygians in sort of honoration for their mother goddess Matar. And how do they know this is related to the scriptures that were also carved into the wall next to the pictures. The final location we visited within these trips to the Phrygian Valley was Gerdekkaya. And Gerdekkaya is a bit special in the sense that when you're driving down the road, basically about 10 minutes from the Midas wall, you will see this. And it's quite impressive and super Hellenistic. You can really feel this sort of Greek influence here. And basically what it is, it's a tomb. So in this rock face, there's been carved this sort of a temple-like tomb. And in the back of you can see the small openings, there's separate tombs, and it's quite close to a small village, so you can see that there's been population in this area for centuries and thousands of years, and most likely in the exact same location. What was interesting though was that these tombs were not only these pre-Christian, pre-Muslim tombs, but you could also actually, what we found was this obviously Christian tomb marked with the cross and crosses in the tomb. Actually, the tombs themselves were empty, so there was no corpses or so, but you could see the tomb carvings, and it's really interesting to see that the same locations have been used by different cultures, different religions, and still these same locations have been seen as holy. I decided to end this show a little bit with this last rock, and also this had some tomb carvings or altar carvings into it, but these kind of rocks are everywhere in this Frigg Valley, and when you see these kind of rocks empty, bare and carved, you most likely are able to find some of these amazing Phrygian structures just around the corner from that place. So driving around this area, just keep your eyes open and you will be amazed. That's all from me this time. Thank you so much for joining Eelin's Epic Morning Show, and see you again later. Bye!